Welcome back to Bird's Eye View. When it comes to the Orioles, this podcast is your official source for lack of insight and for baseless opinions. Today is August 4th, 2026, and this is episode 430. My name is Jake English.
And I'm Scott Magnus.
And on this week's show, buckle up, we're going to feel things.
We're going to unleash tears. We're going to maybe have a few laughs along the way. And as a disclaimer, if you are interested in what we got back, maybe go turn into another podcast because this is not going to be the podcast for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to be very analytical this evening.
This is not an analytical. This is a feels podcast, so buckle up.
We're going to do all the feels. Let's dive directly into it after we do something rather important for a very specific person.
Should we lubricate the show?
I think it might be time.
All right,
drink of the week.
Let's lubricate the show. Jake, I am doing a Dewey Beer Company Swishy Pants.
As we all should.
Yeah.
I am drinking a gin and tonic with Bombay and homegrown limes.
And why are we doing this again?
Growing limes?
Yeah.
Because I can.
Oh, okay. But we're really doing this because Derek Arnold shamed us into doing this again.
This particular part of the show is all about shame.
So again, this episode is sponsored by shame, and we are going to be bringing a bunch of shame along with it.
We are indeed. We're talking about Adley Rutschman.
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman traded to the Boston Red Sox, and let me just...
Shame?
Let me unload
shame
for a second here.
Shame.
Yeah. I will say, to be fair to the Baltimore Orioles, that in a vacuum...
No. We're not doing that here. Be fair to the Baltimore Orioles. Go ahead. I'll let you continue. But no.
In a vacuum,
okay,
this deal makes sense. This deal makes sense in a vacuum because you could say that with the signing of Samuel Basallo, with the fact that it's taken so long for a contract to happen or not with Adley, that the writing was on the wall and that the Orioles were in a position where they could either make the same mistake that they did with the Manny Machado trade and contract situation or go a different path. And also the fact that Adley Rutschman is a free agent at the end of the 2027 season, a season which is not guaranteed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of that, they made a deal, and you can go listen to another podcast. The haul that they got in return is good. The Orioles did not get fleeced. The Orioles do not seem to have made a tactical player value to player value error.
Mm.
And so in a vacuum, this deal makes sense. This deal is fine. It's okay. But this deal did not happen in a vacuum. It did not happen in a vacuum, and we'll have plenty more to say about it. But the final piece of it, if I could just not bury the lead, is it is incredibly hard to swallow the team saying that the rebuild was not successful enough for them to retain the very face of that rebuild. This team and its fans sat through 115 losses in 2018 to get Adley Rutschman. It was 5 years in the desert, which, by the way, was on top of all the rest, right? A lifetime of disappointing Orioles fandom. And then after Adley, being swept out of the playoffs for 10 years straight. This didn't happen in a vacuum. And it's the Red Sox.
Yep.
If Adley had gone to the Brewers or the Diamondbacks or the Mariners or the Angels, I would not be as fired up as I am. But if 2027 does happen, we're going to see him 13 times.
Yep.
This is not a great moment to be an Orioles fan. And I don't care how much lipstick gets put on it. It's a terrible, terrible day to be an Orioles fan. And so will tomorrow be, and the day after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has explained kind of their feelings in the matter, and I think you're actually being very kind. I think you're being very kind of like, in a vacuum, that mentality. I think that's a very kind situation. Listen, I get it. Basallo got an extension. Then you're like, okay, well, do the Orioles really need to sign two catchers? Then do you really want to sign Adley to a deal that is going to take him into his mid-30s as a catcher, with you also signing a first baseman with no guarantee that Adley can even play first base? Can I answer that question? Sure.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, which is like, you look at Adley and you say, yes, he has been injured a significant portion over the past few seasons. You can say, yep, he hasn't delivered what we would have expected him to deliver as a 1.1, which I will come back and potentially challenge. He's a 3-time All-Star. He's exactly where you would expect kind of a 1.1 to be in terms of being a multi-tier All-Star. And then I hear, well, the money's not there, the money's not available, and we need to strike while the iron's hot so we don't make the same mistake with Manny. What was so wrong about going into the 2018 season and saying, we're going to give it a shot? I still come back, and the people that say, well, we should have traded Manny during the offseason or during the 2017 season. By God, what an absolutely horrific mindset to be like, well, we can't sign our players. So when they get a year and a half or 2 years from leaving Baltimore, we need to trade them to basically recuperate some value so that we have a 4-year window with these players in the future, once they have their MLB debut, to be in Baltimore and then be a feeder system for other clubs and other teams. I don't know. It just is extremely frustrating to me. When is it going to stop?
And I understand, again, not to be too kind to the team, but I understand that you can't keep everybody. I understand that despite the fact that the new regime seems to have more in the way of spending cash than what we were used to before, that you can't keep everybody. But when it comes down to making tough decisions, I don't think that the face of your franchise, the face of your rebuild, the 1-1, the multi-all-star, that's not the guy that you part with.
All right, so let's talk about this from the money situation, because again, if we outside of the whole standpoint of you've got a billionaire in private equity, so money really is not an option, and we're going to talk a lot about money, and I'm going to get on a soapbox here, but let's break this down. Adley probably was going to be asking for a 5 or 6 year deal at $20 million per year. Is that an overpay? Yeah, it's probably an overpay. Adley is probably more worth going into free agency as of the end of next year, maybe 3-4 years at $16 or $17 million. This is an organization that for the past few years and continues to play this individual is paying Tyler O'Neill $45+ million. It's a team that has gone out and said, well, we don't want to go sign a long-term pitcher. We're going to go and sign 1-year deals for pitchers at $15 to $25 million. And that's going to be sunk cost, but we think that's their best kind of angle going forward.
The Charlie Mortons of the world.
You cannot tell me that keeping Adley Rutschman and just saying, yeah, we're going to pay him, and more than likely the back end of a contract is going to be absolutely miserable, but we're going to eat the money. If you play this game of, well, we're only going to offer contracts to people in order to ensure that at the end of the contract, we can look back at it and said, we either made money or we came out neutral. That's not going to work in Major League Baseball. We can take a look at every single long-term contract in Major League Baseball and say, long-term contracts don't work if you evaluate them financially. But what they do work with is the first, we'll call it half of their contract. Mm-hmm. It's going to be effective. I think Pete's going to be the same way. I think Pete signed that 5-year contract. I think the first 3 years, maybe 4 years are going to be good. I think after that, it's going to be brutal. And that's okay, because you play to win now. And the Orioles continue to kick the can down the curb and say, well, we're just not quite there yet. We need to retool just a little bit more and tweak it. And we need some of these young players to, play up to their talent and, improve on some fundamentals. And once that happens, then that's when it's all going to click. And then it's going to be liftoff from there.
Well, no, it starts now, Scott. Yeah. Now that we've traded Adley Rutschman, it starts now.
Yeah.
The other thing that is just galling about this move is the signal that it makes about how little the fan experience matters to the ball club. And again, that's one of those things that doesn't exist in a vacuum. That is one part of a story, of the narrative of all of these things that we've been super frustrated over the past couple of years. The Orioles continually making business moves that make it very clear that the fan experience does not factor in to success at all. And I would argue part of that fan experience is the winning.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Even if we look at the matter at this moment is you are entering into August. You are 2.5 games back from the playoffs. Are you going to make the playoffs? Probably not. You look at this team, you look at the talent, and you're just like, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. But again, I think everyone came into this trade deadline saying, okay, we're expecting some people to be moved. I think, Taylor Ward was one that people are like, yep, if he gets moved, we can understand it. But at the end of the day, there was no buying at this trade deadline. There was no standpoints of being like, well, we want to improve our bullpen because that's been a gap for us. And, we were skittish to move some of our individuals like a Cade Povich and other individuals into a bullpen role. It was a complete fire sale. And again, you can come back and point to be like, well, we got some folks in that are, some bodies. And it's just like, you got quadruple A players that may turn into a spot starter for a few weeks, but on a long-term basis for an entire season, for a playoff standpoint, they are not going to equate to, I said this before from a team building standpoint, you need players that can post 3+ WAR. It doesn't have to be all your players, but you need star talent to post 3+ WAR. Adley Rutschman is one of your individuals that can post a 3+ WAR. There are very few people on this team that can post a 3+ WAR as a position player. I'm sorry, Colton Cowser is not one of those individuals. Tyler O'Neill is not one of those individuals. Gunnar certainly is. Jackson Holliday could be. Jordan Worsberg has not shown that he can be healthy enough. Pete Alonso definitely can be. And Samuel Basayo looks like he will be. But again, health and the question is similar to Adley, which is like, can a catcher actually do it? You've probably got, 4 position players there that can potentially put up 3+ WAR. It's not enough. At the end of the day, you started off with this in a vacuum. This is not a terrible move. I disagree entirely. Because yes, if you do it by the measurement of surplus value, this is a really good move of like, well, Adley Rutschman is worth, $20 million and the surplus value for all these prospects is worth, $70 or $80 million. This is the same kind of, no offense, crap that has gotten us into trouble with like online gambling and fantasy football and stuff like that of being like, oh, how could you accept that trade? Like that individual has a really good remaining schedule and he's projected to do da 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 da. It's bull crap. Like it is absolute bull crap. And yes, these prospects could turn into something, but we've also seen specifically within this organization, we have a long track record of prospects doing absolutely nothing.
Pitching prospects at that.
Yeah, exactly. So like this mentality of like, well, look at all this, surplus value. You don't need surplus value when you have a billionaire. So this mentality of like, in a vacuum, it's a good deal. Yes, in a spreadsheet, if I was playing MLB The Show or OOTP, I'd be like, yeah, I made a really good deal with myself. And then I would go to bed and my wife would be like, you're wasting all your time playing a stupid game.
You made a really good deal with yourself. Look, I don't want to be confused for defending this, right? I'm incredibly angry right now. But when I listened to the absolute word salad that came out of Mike Elias's mouth when he addressed the media.
We didn't gut the team. We didn't gut the team.
I was more angry by the time he was finished speaking than I entered. So again, I am not defending Mike Elias.
Yeah.
Full stop. However, I do understand the point of, look, the season was supposed to go better.
Mm-hmm.
We prepared for it to go better. And by the way, you and I are on record for saying they did not do enough.
Yeah.
So that's crap. But the season did not go the way it was supposed to go. We are where we are with the win-loss record. He didn't come out and say it, but he basically said, yeah, we could make the playoffs, but probably not. And because of that, I have to operate this way. I was cagey about whether or not we're going to buy and sell because I have to be. That's how you do this job. And I get all of that. I get absolutely all of that.
I'm used to the liar's luncheon from the Ravens and stuff like that. Like it's cool. Like I get that. I understand that you're not going to be forthright. But again, let's come back to surplus value. You got a bunch of surplus value for Adley. There is no reason in the world, while that trade was pending, that you do not go out to other clubs and say, hey guys, we literally have a plethora now of pitchers and individuals that are part of our farm system. We're not going to immediately trade away, some of the prospects that we just got from the Red Sox, but we're going to go out there and say, how do you guys feel about Trey Gibson? Trey Gibson is certainly not a great top 100 prospect, but he's an easily, in my opinion, top 200 prospect. What do you guys think about us putting together a deal for Aaron Estrada, Trey Gibson, and, somebody else of your choosing in order to get back let's go with someone that has a ton of contract. And that, again, I think this is probably a massive overpay. But like, what if they go to the Giants and say, you know what? Matt Chapman is an individual that is completely overpaid right now, but we have a gap at third base potentially going into next season that we want to take that on. Yes, we're going to have Jordan Westberg. Yes, we're going to have Blaze Alexander, but Matt Chapman has the potential to be an easy 2+ WAR, potential 3 to 4 WAR player. We're going to go ahead and do that. And then it also gives us the ability to potentially trade Jordan Westberg in the offseason as well. Again, you're getting rid of your young players there. And again, I would be sad to see Jordan Westberg go, but I would get that because be like, okay, you're going out there to get additional veterans. Maybe the Orioles go off and do this. They did it with getting Shane Baz, but they did nothing at this deadline to make you believe that this is going to be a matter where they're like, okay, we are reloading here in order to go get additional major league talent, especially going into a lockout. This whole winter and spring and most of next summer is going to be really weird.
This is going to be the story.
Correct.
This taste is not going to go away for a while. And I think, you mentioned Westberg specifically, but I just want to say, like, I don't care about Taylor Ward, right? They traded him, and I'm like, I don't care that he's gone, and I don't care what we got back. I don't care about it.
We can take a look at surplus value and be like, well, it is what it is, and like, yeah, they got a cool like pitcher that has interesting stuff, but like, that's superfluous.
Right. I do not care about losing Taylor Ward.
Yeah.
Some of the other rumored deals that didn't happen, if the Orioles had dealt Jackson Holiday, that would have sucked. That would have been a bummer. That would have
been like, okay, so you're giving up on him this early in your career?
Right.
Like, what do you know that we're not seeing?
And again, the haul better be worth it.
Yep.
You better get a crap ton of prospects, but it would not have been an Adley-sized hole in this organization. If they had made moves that were painful choices, I understand that sometimes that has to happen. There is no reason that Adley Rutschman needed to become touchable. And I think that what you're seeing this season with both Adley being back, but still dinged up. Right. The important thing that we have talked about this season is that Adley Rutschman is back, despite the fact that he is bouncing on and off the IL.
Sure.
And Basayo has been on and off the IL.
Absolutely.
We've had Sam Huff and Jake Rogers and Chadwick Trump holding down.
Don't forget Pozo.
And Pozo holding down the backstop for us. And Adley Rutschman is suddenly expendable? Sign him. Sign him long term.
I just don't get it. Yes, he's going to cost you money, but in the reality of a payroll that you're going to have that is going to be easily 200+ million, it is a drop in the bucket compared to deals that you've just signed with Bradish and Baz and Basayo. You have the money to play with. Just do it.
It is so frustrating that they have done so many things that don't suck. Right. I was furious in the offseason because Alonso was not enough. Alonso was not enough.
But you thought it was going to be enough. It was a situation like the move they made to go get Pete at the winter meetings. You're just like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to do something.
Yes. And paying for Shane Baz.
Yep.
Yes. Do that.
Yeah.
Please.
That's like, great. Cool.
Extending Kyle Bradish. Yes. Please do that.
Yeah.
Good. Do the thing. Trading Adley is just a bridge too far for the fan base. And I know that there is an argument to be made that it's the rational, right, correct move. And I'm sorry, that's crap.
Listen, I'm a nerd. I'm just going to call it out. This just seems like D&D min-maxing of like, well, I'm going to go ahead and move this piece over here and this piece over here. It just doesn't make any sense. Like at the end of the day, Adley is still, again, we can challenge the notion of a superstar or not, but again, he's a potential all-star every single season, in my opinion. I'm looking at the Zips projections coming into the season. He was projected at a 4.6 Z-WAR at the beginning of the season. Next year, 4.1, and in 2028, a 4.0. Now that's close to 600 plate appearances. Adley hasn't had 600 plate appearances since 2024. But like, I look at this and I say, even if Adley gets 400 plate appearances, which right now he's at 284, he may struggle a little bit to get 400, but let's just go saying like he's going to get close to 400. He's going to be a 3-WAR player. That is an extremely valuable piece to have for this season and next season. And again, I don't understand why you don't say, yeah, we're going to overpay him a little bit, but we can afford it.
Here's the next question. As an Orioles fan, looking ahead, I said with what we expect to happen with the 2027 season, this bad taste in our mouth is going to last a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many fans right now looking at this ball club and asking pointedly, what's the point?
What's the point?
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, what's the point and what's the plan? Like, why is it going to be different, with this new group of prospects? How is this going to be different in terms of plate approach that we haven't seen now for two years?
Oh, yeah, but I think more existentially, I'm seeing a lot of fans question, why am I bought in this way?
Yeah.
Why am I so wrapped up in a team that is so obviously unserious? And I'm seeing a lot of really dedicated fans, start to peel back. We talked earlier in the season about the fact that the Orioles might buy themselves apathy with poor play. We are way beyond that. I care a lot about this team. I'm at the point where when people are like, that's it, I'm done. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Back in the dark ages, I never would have had that reaction. People say, that's it, I can't handle it anymore. I say, well, you just, you're a bad fan.
Yeah.
This is not bad.
I mean, I wouldn't even say that they are doing things poorly. So, again, I come back to the standpoint of certainly what they're doing with international prospects and stuff like that, good. What are they doing specifically as it relates to, investments in terms of the Sarasota complex and modern technology? Fine. The question that I would kind of raise is when they came into the organization in 2019, they were left with a charred crater, and they have been rebuilding that charred crater and to a certain regard doing a nice job rebuilding an infrastructure that did not exist. But now they've done that. They've rebuilt the infrastructure. Now the question is, how do they pivot from being a GM that is creating a farm system and transition to, I'm no longer running a farm system and I'm no longer doing what I was grown up to do in terms of scouting and prospecting, and how am I going to change that dynamic to say, here is how we have to approach Major League Baseball differently in order to make uncomfortable moves in order to make this happen. And again, I think we've seen some bits of that with Corbin Burns and the Shane Baz trade, but it's not enough. It's like I put my toe in the water and then I pull it right back.
It's all about the results. And from a fan standpoint, I don't care how hard it is. I've done my waiting, 14 years in the dark ages. All this rebuild, all of the reconstruction of the organization that they've done. And again, I acknowledge they've done a good job with a very difficult task. I don't care.
Yeah.
I waited a lifetime for a competent baseball team. It should be competent by now. It should be winning right now. And it is not. And I'm all out of patience.
Yeah.
And I know that, we have a Orioles podcast that we've run for 15 years. We have a level of stupid dedication to this team that the casual fan does not have. They are flirting with disaster when it comes to interest and dedication to this team.
I don't know how an individual looks at this and says, I believe, especially going into a lockout, that this is something that, number one, I want to be putting money against. And then number two, that, I have faith that they're going to pull this out and come back and resurrect their chances going forward for future seasons. And again, it's not just about Adley. Adley leaving is not the make or break. The fact of the matter is, you look at the team, and I was actually, talking to a few folks about this early this week on the Orioles The Verge Discord. I was just prior to the deadline, I said, if you're just going to run it back next year, is that good enough? And you're saying, well, we got unlucky with, we're going to go ahead and re-sign Trevor Rogers, and then hopefully one of our pitchers comes up from Bowie or Norfolk and they can be the fifth starter, and you're just going to run back your current group of position players. Is that good enough? In my opinion, would be no, that was not good enough.
And they've tried that before.
So you needed to go into free agency this year and basically say we are going to have to overspend to get certain players, and we're not going to have to rely on certain, young players to do that. So we're going to have to trade. We're going to have to sign people, and it's going to be risky, but you have to do it.
The Orioles have been thrifty, and to their credit, they've opened up the wallet a little bit, and so it's harder to.
They have opened up their wallet to the point of being a mid team in terms of revenue per payroll.
Sure,
yeah,
but it's hard to lob they're just throwing out Confederate money. It's not the Angelos cheap.
Right? Oh no, I don't think it's the Angelos cheap.
But they need to damn the torpedoes.
Sure,
right? They have to do all of the things. They need to take the approach of saying, We have this nucleus that's really good.
Yeah.
It hasn't been enough by itself. Okay. What are the things that we need to do? What are the things that we could do to fix that? Let's do them all.
Yeah.
Let's do them all.
I completely agree. And again, this comes back to the terrible move basis. Like, as much as you want to, point to the Red Sox and be like, idiots, you guys overspent. At the same point, if you were in the exact opposite shoes of being like, okay, we overspent, but we went out and got, perennial all-star, we'd be all giddy. We'd be like, this is great. This is great. Like, even if it doesn't work, it's showing ambition.
It's the same reaction we had with the Pete Alonso signing.
Yeah.
It's going to be good for a little while.
Yeah.
It's going to be really terrible at the end. We know that. It's worth the risk if they win.
Yeah.
Do it all.
Even if you don't win, just do it. Like, just give it a shot.
I will be honest about my own impatience because I was one of those, well, let's just get to 500 people during the dark ages. Then it was like, okay, well, we got to 500 and we got to the playoffs, right? And so our expectation was now like, oh, this team can compete for the playoffs with the nucleus that we have. Let's do that.
Sure.
And then the rebuild happened and the expectation was, oh, everything's going to suck and be awful forever. And then 2022 happened and our expectation rose again. The team won 101 games in 2023 and by all accounts should have gone much further into the playoffs than they did. With that nucleus, much of which is still here, you can look at that and say there is no excuse to have those assets and to not build on them to take advantage to win now.
Yeah. And again, those assets are Gunnar and Adley and Kyle Bradish and stuff like that. So like, I think, again, this comes back down to, at the end of the day, and you mentioned the Michael Elias standpoint, he gets up in front of the media and just says, look, we're still going for a playoff. We're not tearing down this club. Like, we're just, retooling it slightly and we're still going for a playoff this year. There was not a single move made at this trade deadline to make you think you're going for it this year. Like, you can talk that way, but there was not a single move. You could have come back and said, listen, given the situation with the current standings and the competition that's out there, we made the prudent move to basically look forward to the future. We're going to still be, cheering this team on and rooting them on and doing as best as we can, but we need to make moves in order to set ourselves up for 2027, 2028, and 2029. I would have much preferred that than to say, we're still in it this year, guys. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We brought some talent in. I hate that standpoint.
Why don't teams have spokesmen? Right? Why are we hearing? Look, I know that the popular move right now is to ride Mike Elias out on a rail to burn him in effigy. I'm not thrilled with him right now either. But his skill is not necessarily public relations. His skill is not necessarily speaking to the public. Why don't we have a spokesman for the Orioles that's a little bit more silver tongued? Because I agree. If they had just said like,
I would think this is the case for most general managers. We can go back to the whole Buster Posey situation in terms of LBGPQ plus night and being like, it's a complicated matter. No, it's not a complicated matter. Like,
but I think you're exactly right when you say, look, this team is still good enough that if everything breaks our way, hey, you never know. Baseball is baseball. Every given Sunday, that kind of thing. But we're doing the prudent thing to make sure that next year we have the best chance, and in 2029 we have the best chance, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I would have respected that a lot more other than, well, let me give you a bunch of crap that we all know is not true. While we're talking about the organization, can you imagine how rancid the vibes in the clubhouse must be after Adley Rutschman is traded?
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that work environment.
Colton Cowser has to be absolutely furious that he's losing Adley, and also he was delayed of seeing Spider-Man. Like, he has to be absolutely furious. The man loves Legos and Spider-Man.
Listen, without Adley, it's a brave new world.
It is a brave new world. The worst part about this is we're going to be in the same exact position next summer and the summer after that. Next summer, we enter into Gunnar is a year and a half out from being a free agent. Mm-hmm. If the Orioles are at 500 or 2 games out or over 500, what stops Michael Elias being like, you know what? We need to make the move.
Let's run this back.
And let's go ahead and go and get additional prospects. And this just continues on for eternity. Jackson Holliday then becomes an individual a year and a half out from his deal. What precludes them from saying, we're going to go ahead and trade Jackson Holliday too? And it just becomes a never-ending cycle in terms of folks saying, well, if you're not going to sign a contract with us for us long term that is club friendly, then we're going to go ahead and say, nice to meet you. We're going to go ahead and take the compensation.
And listen, the organization has done a really nice job of drafting and developing complementary players. But the system does not have Adley Rutschmans and Gunnar Hendersons and Jackson Hollidays waiting in the wings. They don't.
They don't. They don't. I mean,
and so these are the guys that you should be building around.
Yeah.
And not getting lottery tickets for.
Well, the other standpoint too is like you look at free agency coming up this offseason, and your top outfielder is a Rosarena. Yes, you could go out and sign him, but again, he's going to be 31 years old. I mean, you could go out and get, I think Ian Happ is available. It's fine. I mean, not great. But like,
we don't need outfielders. We've got Tyler O'Neill for a third year.
Well, you got Tyler O'Neill, and then you got like Dylan Beavers, and you're like, well, if Dylan Beavers gets it together and learns how to hit against lefties, he could be an all-star. And it's just like, yes, but you just replaced an all-star. This is where it gets frustrating to me of like, if you subtract an individual that has the ability to put up a 3 to 4 WAR season, then you need to replace him with an individual that is going to post up a 3 to 4 win season, and then theoretically even be better if you want to include this team. This is not just me about Adley. This is team construction. This is, the aspect, like you said, is in terms of like what this does in terms of a message kind of going forward from a franchise basis. Trades happen. In baseball, trades are going to happen. I'm not upset about Taylor Ward being moved. I'm actually not even upset about Tyler Wells. I'm actually really excited to, trade a reliever. I think, Tyler Wells did what he did here. I think he's an okay arm, but I'm really excited to see Michael Forrad come back into the organization. I hate this mentality of, well, if we can't sign our starters, we're going to go ahead and trade them a year and a half or 2 years early because we don't want to take the risk of getting to free agency and being left with, nothing to show for it. I hate it. I hate it. I think it is a coward's decision and mentality. And I think it just goes to show that there is no plan going forward. It's just, let's hope that the young kids can do it. And if they can't, then we're just going to blame the players. And then we're going to go ahead and find new players to try again.
The worst part for me is that all of the fans that are so frustrated that they are not renewing their season packages, none of that matters to the team either.
Yeah.
Because they got the Truist Club now, man.
They
don't need individual Birdland members. They can have a half-empty crowd, except when the folks come down on the train to watch Adley play at Camden Yards. They don't care. That does not factor in. As a fan, what do? Well, you just take it. You just take the medicine year after year after year.
But you can make a choice. And again, we talked about it earlier this season in terms of when the Orioles were playing bad baseball. We said, you don't have to watch every single game. You can make decisions to do different things in life. And that's the same way it is with the season ticket situation. If you've got season tickets, this is an opportunity to say, like, if you're unhappy with it, show it to them with your wallet. It doesn't preclude you from listening to games or watching games. It doesn't preclude you from even going back to games. But to give an organization such as this that is run by private equity money going into a lockout situation where ads are being played on MLB.TV, basically being anti-union, I think it's as good of a time as ever to send a message of saying, you know what, we're not going to fund your liquidity. I may come back in the future, but right now, I don't want to be going into this winter funding this liquidity.
And there's no reason to be a season ticket holder. The benefits of being a season ticket holder have come down to you get tickets on opening day, no questions asked, and you get at least some tickets if they make the playoffs. And I got to be honest, the way that the team has been over the last several years, that second part is not the carrot that they think it is, particularly because they have not won a playoff game in over, 12 years. And opening day, if you have to overpay,
sure,
and then you don't have to overpay the rest of the season, because that's the other thing, is that they increased the minimum commitment to 20 games.
Yep.
The smallest package you can get now is what?
20 games.
Yeah, but it's I don't remember how much bigger that is. I mean, it was 13, so it's like almost 50% increase. The thing is that on the secondary market, you can get 20 games at a fraction of the price.
Absolutely.
And that money does not go to the team.
Yeah.
Those tickets have already been purchased. As an angry fan, I would much rather do that and overpay for opening.
I mean, there are benefits to the season ticket package where, you can get a guaranteed promotion of a player that is not going to be here in 3 years.
That's true.
So you can go get your bobblehead. I've got my lovely Adley Rutschman bobblehead. This is something that I can kind of put up there and remember this individual being kind of a franchise player.
You mean Boston Red Sox hero Adley Rutschman?
Boston Red Sox hero, yeah. Boston Red Sox World Series MVP,
yes.
Adley Rutschman.
Very clearly will happen.
So what is the point? Like you said, it doesn't preclude you from attending games. It doesn't preclude you from watching the team and, being proud of seeing Baltimore across the chest. But it's also okay to turn it out and be like, what can I do to basically not support this environment?
I know this is going to sound unlike me.
Yeah.
But as the news was breaking, I may have emoted on the internet. Mm-hmm. I know. Try not to be too surprised. But two things I stand by that I said in my anger. First is that there is no reason ever again to purchase a jersey with a name and number on the back.
Sure. There's
just no reason. Henry's a catcher. I got him a Rutschman jersey.
Yep.
We have watched Adley a lot because of that. And there's no reason.
There's no reason.
And the second thing is that I would love for the Orioles to play a game in front of 0 fans again. I would love a message to be sent because again, they don't care about the wallet, but it would be embarrassing and it would get people talking. It would be a discussion point of, man, these guys have really pissed off their fan base.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I don't know if I'm that far. Maybe I would say to you, keep doing what you're doing. But no, I'm not here for the aspects of walkouts or, no fan standpoints. I think it just becomes similar to what it was in the ballpark tonight, which is there were people there. They clapped nicely for this debut of MLB debut of Franklin today, which is cool. It's great job. But in reality, it just kind of becomes the minor league baseball stadium that they want it to be in terms of in-game hosts and stuff like that, which is you're going to watch entertainment, but you're not going really with the belief that it really matters. It's like the circus.
Where they're cruel to the entertainers?
Absolutely.
Instead, they're cruel to the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great time to be a Baltimore Orioles fan.
Yeah, absolutely great. But again, listen, we got prospects, and it's going to be certainly fun to keep an eye on them in Frederick and Bowie and Norfolk. And then, maybe we'll get to see them at some point next year make an appearance and offer some contribution to this team going forward in the future.
Again, nothing but magic beans. Magic beans. All right, it's time again for the good, the bad, and the ugly. We talked a lot about when things were ugly. Let me talk about something that's been good. Christian Encarnacion Strand, incredibly good.
Yeah.
For what he's supposed to be. He is not supposed to be doing this. First of all, I was pleasantly surprised with some of the defense that we've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, competent defense.
Absolutely.
With occasional moments of, oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But that's
nice arm strength.
Yeah. But that's clearly not the story. The story is, and I'm just pulling these numbers since the All-Star break.
Sure.
It's been a while since we've been together. But since the All-Star break, he has a 156 weighted runs created plus, which does not appear to be smoke and mirrors in the fact that he has 43 plate appearances, which is up there amongst the regulars on the club. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to be always the way.
No
but
chance.
He has put together a really impressive stretch of player that comes in to hold things together with tape and baling wire to be really good.
He's doing exactly what he should be doing in this next 6 to 8 weeks while Blaze Alexander is out, which is he's playing a serviceable third base and he's hitting, very well. So kudos to him. But again, he strikes me as very much a kind of a Mark Reynolds individual, which is going to be when he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, it's going to be really brutal. But, for this period coming off the All-Star break, kudos to CES. He's definitely been one of the better players on this team. My good is going to go to a player who's been really good on and off the field, and it's got to be Trevor Rogers. Has posted in 3 games, 19 and a third innings, 9.31 Ks per 9, 0.47 walks per 9, 3.26 ERA, good for a FIP of 1.18 and an XFIP of 2.92. Listen, that's great. And like I said, he's been doing an amazing job on the field, but also he's saying all the right things off the field, which is like, listen, I want to be here, focused on playing my game right now, but I want to be in Baltimore in the future. This is exactly what you want to hear. This is exactly what you want to do. I think this was the right move not to trade him. I think you have to see if someone is willing to go to free agency with you and come back to you. Again, he'll have a qualifying offer tied to him. He is an individual I want back in Baltimore. And again, he may flake out in the near future and it might not work out okay. But if you go into next season with Bradish, Boz, and Rogers again, and you just had to fill it in with 2 additional pitchers, Brandon Young being one of them maybe, you're in really good shape going forward, into the 2027 season. Getting Trevor Rogers back for the 2027 season would make me be like, okay, I've got a little bit of belief now, but you've got to go the next level. Like Trevor Rogers can't be your only pitching signing. Mm-hmm. You've got to go out and get one additional pitcher. And yes, people can come back and be like, we've got a ton of depth in Norfolk in terms of Trey Gibson and Cade Povich and Nestor German.
You're going to need that as depth.
You're going to need veterans to lead yourself into the playoffs. And if those individuals are really good, you can shuttle people around. You can make moves to basically say, we're going to sit you for a little bit just to give you a little bit of a break. You can do an opener. Like there's a bunch of options here, and especially in the playoffs. And again, we saw this with the Rangers when the Rangers knocked out the Orioles. They had a terrible bullpen, but what do? They just said, we're just going to go ahead and just have our starters come in and pitch 4 or 5 innings and then bring our another starter in right behind him and pitch 4 or 5 innings. It's a perfectly legitimate strategy.
And again, we have seen what happens when you don't do it.
Yeah.
Charlie Morton and Kyle Gibson 2.0 and yeah. All right, my bad for this period after the All-Star break is going to go to Leody Taveras. He has just been rough. A weighted runs created plus of 20. And because there has been a shortage of healthy outfielders, he's been run out there an awful lot. He has 52 plate appearances in that time. Not great, Bob. Not great. A BABIP of 138. His on-base percentage is just 220 while slugging 182. It has been really difficult to watch him at the plate. It's the type of deal where he comes up and you know the outcome before it happens. Very bad.
So this stat line would typically go into my ugly category. 9.00 Ks per 9, 4.5 walks per 9, 1.93 home runs per 9, good for a 10.29 ERA and a FIP of 5.38. But I can't put him into the bad category because of him being here for so long. But it was time for him to move on. Dean Kramer has been bad this season. We questioned at the very beginning of the season, like, you're really optioning Dean Kramer, but Dean Kramer really never appeared in 2026 as a serviceable arm. This was the right move to move on from Dean Kramer. I mean, I'm sad to see him go, but again, it's also a situation like you can't keep throwing him out there and having him try to figure it out. You kind of just have to cut bait. So Dean Kramer, best of luck to you in Minnesota. You'll be there this year and next year. This is the right move to make. Dean Kramer, you just are not good enough. Tip of the cap to him, an absolute innings eater, an absolute bulldog in previous seasons. I think Dean Kramer is going to go underappreciated. I would kind of put him into like a Bud Norris category, but Dean Kramer definitely deserves some mad props from Orioles fans. He was a great pitcher. It just didn't work out this season. If you think about 2027, Dean Kramer could not be your 5th starter going into 2027. If you want to be a playoff team, you have to continue to improve.
My ugly for this period is going to go to Rico Garcia.
Yeah.
Man, did he regress to the mean? I mean, it's just to the point where you don't have the trust that you did. And, maybe he works his way out of it, or maybe we saw the flash.
Yeah.
There's really no good way to know right now. But man, Rico Garcia has just been torched since the All-Star break. And it's really tough to be able to think about him coming into high leverage situations in which you don't vomit. It's just really rough right now. It's ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my ugly is going to come back to kind of the beginning of the show, but losing Adley and Basayo back to back to the IL coming off the All-Star break is a massive gut punch. You come to the season and be like, we've got a ton of catching depth going into the All-Star break. I think the Orioles led the league in terms of catcher WAR from both those players. And to lose them on back-to-back days just is an absolute gut punch. And you could just see how the lineup suffered by having, Huff and Trump, Pozo, and, anybody that they could basically throw in there as in terms of like, it was a dead spot in the order. It's just really frustrating because you go into the All-Star break and you're like, okay, we go on a run here. We're in good shape. And in reality, July was a nice month. Outside of just a few losses here and there, still really a nice month. 15-9, I believe it was, right?
Somewhere about there.
Yeah. So again, really nice month, the kind of month that you would expect a playoff team to go on.
It was the month we were waiting for all season.
But again, losing Adley and losing Basayo back-to-back and not having any depth behind them. And again, who really has depth that far deep in there? But it just is a really ugly situation and just a really bad situation. I don't blame either of those guys in terms of IL stints, but I feel like that moment helped to kind of kill this season in terms of whatever hope we had left.
Yeah, and if you look at where the Orioles are, looking up at the wild card, they're what, 2.5 games out, something of that nature?
They were 2.5, I believe, coming into tonight. I don't even know what happened last night because, again, I kind of turned off my baseball brain at a certain point last night. But they won this evening against the Angels against former Oriole Grayson Rodriguez, going 3-1 against him. Again, only scoring 3 runs against Grayson Rodriguez.
But you look at losing those guys and some of the games that we lost and think to yourself, how much closer might we be?
Sure. I mean, I think, there's a possibility, if Adley and Basayo are both in this lineup, you could potentially be at 500 coming into the trade deadline. Then it enters into a really weird situation. I was like, would that have been good enough? Or would it have been a situation, which again is like, well, we're a 500 team and we got such a good offer for Adley that we had to take it. And then how much more of an uproar would we have been at that given time?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I don't really have a lot of faith in this team. If they were to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I just still come back to next year, which is like next year, if you're at the trade deadline, what is going to be the threshold where the organization says, yes, we believe we can make a run? Do you have to be leading the division? Do you have to be in a wild card number 1 spot? If you are chasing a wild card, is the mindset of this team going to be, we don't want to take the risk?
Yeah, it's just that like this year, the AL...
Because the blame from the players is just disgusting. Like,
well, yeah, but the thing is that the AL is not very good.
No.
And I don't think they're wrong in thinking that we're not as good as not very good. I think
we're mid. I think we're mid.
I think if the Orioles were to make the playoffs, they get bounced early.
I totally agree. I think in the millions of scenarios that you're talking about, but again, if we're going to talk Spider-Man, we're going to talk Doctor Strange, there's always that one instance. And again, we have seen people go on absolutely wacky, weird runs. 2014 is no instance better in terms of the Kansas City Royals bouncing the Baltimore Orioles from the ALCS. October's weird. Get to October, see what happens with the weirdness. In reality, you're going against the Dodgers. So you either play for the weirdness of like, let's see what happens and use the power of friendship, as it were, to basically see if you can bounce the Dodgers. Because no matter what you do on paper with your spreadsheet, the Dodgers are the better team.
But they're not building Legos, my friend.
They are not building Legos. And I guarantee their whole team went and saw Spider-Man. That's the point that really bothers me. Going forward in the future, what is going to be the criteria that this doesn't happen again and again and again and again?
Scotty, I hate it when you're right.
It's almost like this is what happens when you trade away someone that had cancer before.
Oh, jeez.
That one's for Javi Burns, but...
On that note, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. And if we have not already, we'll blow the save.
Jake, we reached out to social media to kind of, get people's opinions, thoughts, and we had a blast from the past.
Really?
Coming directly from Tomorrowland. This is an individual from the Baltimore Sports Report Network. This is the lovely general manager of Baltimore Sports Report, Zach Wilt, reaching out to us, indicating that he saw that we were taking emails and he has to get something off his chest. I'm at a loss. I'm struggling. Today, I received an email from the Baltimore Orioles titled, "Welcome the newest Orioles to Birdland." And I hit the unsubscribe button. I might need a little space from this club, and maybe we take a break. The Adley Rutschman trade signals a massive failure on the part of this club, and for me, their trust is shattered. If you told me in 2019 that the Orioles' first overall draft pick would be traded to a division rival for prospects 7 years later, I would have told you that things have gone horribly wrong with the rebuild that I so patiently endured, and I'm having a hard time seeing it any other way. I'm thinking I'm a pretty level-headed about the Orioles and the business of baseball and the challenges of a small market, but this is my breaking point, and I can acknowledge the return the Orioles receive for Adley is significant. I've seen the rankings that the places the Orioles farm system second in baseball often move. I've seen the stories saying that they fleeced the Red Sox, but after the last 8 years, how are we expected to trust this organization? The Orioles had a great farm system 5 years ago, too. One that was supposed to put the club in contention for years to come. Why should we believe that these prospects are any different than the ones that failed us before? I'm done giving them the benefit of the doubt. I also can't get past how demoralizing it is hearing fans or the media say that Adley wasn't going to resign in Baltimore anyway, that they should get what they can for him before he leaves in free agency. I grew up in the Angelos era where we heard that. I thought this was supposed to change with the Rubenstein at helm. Wasn't this supposed to be spend big and keep our homegrown talent? Why is it a certainty that Adley would walk? That's another failure. I get being small marketed, but small market teams lock out their players all the time. And a quick Google research will show you that Rubenstein is worth over $4.1 billion. Am I supposed to believe that he couldn't afford to keep Adley here? Again, I'm not buying it. Shame on me for thinking that a guy who amassed enough wealth for 10,000 lifetimes, for sucking the soul out of everything we love through private equity, would have the heart to keep players that a fan base adores. Look, here's what it comes down to for me. I'm 38 years old. Jake, we're in our 40s at this point. I've been a fan of this team for my entire life, and all I want is to see them win a championship. Not championships, just a championship. I don't care if they build a super team through massive deferred contracts and win the World Series through a completely unsustainable roster construction. I don't care if they build a team that bankrupts the owner and they win that way. I don't care if it's done on the cheap through a great farm system and they cut guys loose when they become too expensive. I just want to see my favorite team win a championship, and I'm not getting any younger. I don't see a clear path for that, and I don't have faith anymore it'll happen. I don't know how anyone who's endured the last 8 years has any hope anymore. Happy to hear if I'm missing something, though. Signed, Zach Wilt.
Can I just complain for a moment?
Sure, absolutely.
How did he more articulately sum up the entire first part of our podcast in a brief email?
Pixie dust. Pixie dust.
That just shows.
He's also friends with Bell.
That just shows that Zach should make sure that he puts words on the internet about the Orioles more frequently.
But to say, it's almost like there's a website still in existence out there that if he ever wanted to post a blog to, he could just reach out and say, hey, can I have a user access to somebody's website so I can post a blog article?
I think what we're saying here is, Zach Wilt, you're on notice. You are too good at this to be silent.
And honestly, that goes for everybody. If there is something that you want to get off your chest, similar to what Zach Wilt did today, to reach out to us. We have a website. We would love to post content. Kevin Brown talked about this a lot tonight on the broadcast. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. And it's okay to kind of, deal with this grief in whatever manner that it's necessary. So if your grief is writing, angry emails or angry blog content, or even, if you have to sing songs in order to get your anger out, we here at Bird's Eye View are here to listen, see, and view it, and are not here to judge.
All right, I have a slight quibble.
Okay.
I am here to judge.
That's fine. That's fine.
And that is our show. Remember, you can find this in our entire catalog of indispensable episodes at birdseyeviewbaltimore.com.
Bird's Eye View is available for download wherever it is you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and many others. Please remember to rate, review the show. We appreciate the feedback and encourages other people to listen for the first time.
Come and get social with us. You can email us at contact@birdseyeviewbaltimore.com, or you can check us out on social media. The best place to find us is probably over at Orioles Blue Sky, but everywhere we're at Bird's Eye View BAL. And with that, Baltimore and beyond, I'll bid you all a fond adieu.
Goodbye, Adley. Thanks for the memories. And I guess, let's go O's.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.